Okay, hello and welcome to The Ancient Writer. This is all about education. And I know you might be saying to yourself, if this is about education, why are you called the Ancient Writer? Well, because I'm also a writer. And because I have an old spirit, people call me ancient. So that's where that comes from. So what we're going to look at today is setting the tone for the class. How do you set the tone for the class? To me, you start off with an effective do now. It's called a do now in some places call it a bell ringer, some places call it a warm up, and who knows where else in the world or in America what name it goes by. But this is what you want to start the class off with, whether you're assessing the students or you're getting their prior knowledge or you're just getting them to relax before the lesson. You want to have something effective that sets the tone for the class. So I'm going to give you three examples of effective ways to use technology to create a do now and how to use that do now to assess the students for their prior knowledge, to differentiate the students based off of their skill levels, and then to assess the students down the line as far as what they're getting. So let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen with you. And the first thing I'm gonna pull up is a Jamboard. So with a Jamboard, and it's easy to get to, you just type in Jamboard. And when I type this in, you'll see it going to right here on Google with the Jamboard. Now, one thing about the Jamboard, when I pull this up, it's already going to be there because I already have an account, but it's very easy to make. And with the Jamboard, this is an effective way to create those simple questions that you can use to assess what the students already know, to get their prior knowledge when you're beginning a new unit or you're starting off with a new objective. So there's a text box on the bottom left-hand corner, and I can use this text box to create my question. So in this case, let's say I'm in biology and I want to get the students prior knowledge. I want to see what they know. I can just type it on here. What is a cell? Something simple. And like I said, I want to use Jamboard for those simple questions where I can get their prior knowledge. The reason I want to use Jamboard for those simple things, because everyone can see it. So I don't want to put a harder question up there because some students will just lay back, watch, look at the answers, and then put theirs up there. But with this, where there's no points being lost for a wrong answer, you can just say what you believe. Now, I'm circling this in blue on the side. There's a sticky note. And what the students will do, they will take these sticky notes and use it to write their answers. So let's say a student says, a cell is matter. That's their answer. And I'm not putting my name on this, but tell your students, make sure you put your name on there so I know it's you, because you might be giving them completion points. And you got your grade book next to you as you see the answers on there, you're putting in your grade book or however you choose to do it. So maybe another student says a cell is a protein. And obviously, I'm just throwing answers out there. Don't look at me and judge me and like, hey, how are you a teacher? And you're way off with. I'm just putting these answers out here for the sake of the example. I got to tell my students the same thing. I'm just doing this for the sake of the example. So what will happen is when you have a class and everyone is engaged, this will fill up with all of these sticky notes and you can just read everything. So now this helps you to see where the students are at with their prior knowledge. If you're reading this and everyone is on point, everyone's getting it right, everyone's really showing you they understand it, that's telling you, okay, I really don't have to spend a lot of time with this topic. I can actually bypass this topic, which is great because in putting together my lessons, it tells me where I need to go, what direction I can move in. However, on the other side, if everyone is answering this and they're just in left field somewhere, that's telling you, okay, they don't know this. So I'm going to have to start from scratch. I'm going to have to go back and get them to understand this before I move here. So this is great for getting that prior knowledge. And like I said, I'd like to use it for the simpler questions and to also gauge where the students are at. So let's say you are a social studies teacher. So maybe you want to ask a question just to gauge the students' prior knowledge. You're going into a unit, you're talking about the Great Depression, and you just ask them, what do you know about the Great Depression? And tell the students, don't worry about being wrong, don't worry about being right. I just want to see what you know. Always give the students that reassurance. Always give them that reassurance, because you're going to have students coming in with confidence issues. You're going to have students coming in who are shy, who are introverted. You always want to give them that reassurance that they are not going to be embarrassed if they get it wrong, that they're not going to be given a low grade if they get it wrong. So tell them genuinely, I just want to see what you know. So now if students are giving answers and they're writing you whole essays on their sticky notes, and you're getting a lot of that, that's telling you, okay, they know this. But if students are telling you, I really don't know, I don't even know what a depression is, that's telling you, okay, this is something I'm going to have to spend some time on. So that's the first strategy, that's the first resource, the Jamboard, and that's great for getting the prior knowledge. Now, the next thing is actually using a question as a part of a Google slideshow. And this is great for differentiation. And I like it because it's simple. I'm a firm believer in keeping things simple. So as you see at the top, it says answer in the chat. That's it, just answer in the chat. I don't need a separate doc. I don't need you making a video. I don't need you taking a picture of your answer, pasting it. Keep it simple, answer in the chat. I'm gonna read the answer, I'm gonna give you feedback. So in this scenario, there's a lot of differentiation going on in here. So in the classroom, you're going to have ELD students on all different levels. You're going to have emerging students. You're going to have students who are expanding, and you're going to have IEP students. Then you're going to have students who don't have an IEP, but they might be low skill. Then you're going to have students who have never taken, in this case, biology before. So in these cases, a vocabulary basis has to be built up. So as you're looking at this, there's words that are underlined. These words that are underlined are for those ELD students, some of those IEP students, some of those students who are struggling with the work. This is vocabulary for them. So they are going to have a reference sheet. And as they go through the unit, they're just adding words in. And as they go through the unit, they're putting definitions in. The ELD students might be matching those words with the word in their language. So it's all about building their vocabulary. So this is differentiated in that way, where some students, all they're doing right now is looking for those underlined words and adding them to their reference sheet. So real quick, I'm going to leave this and I'm going to go and let you take a look at what I mean when I say a reference sheet. So this is a biology-based do now right here. So I'm going to show you a reference sheet that's biology-based. So right here, this is a reference sheet and it has a list of vocab words. So these are words that as the students are going through the unit, they're adding these words in. So by the end of that unit, they'll have an entire list of words that they're going to be learning, and all they're doing is building their vocabulary. So going back to that do now question, there's going to be students who all they're doing is looking for those words that are underlined, or maybe they're highlighted, and they're getting the vocab. They're going to get that word onto their reference sheet, and it's going to be their job to learn those definitions. And as you go through the notes and giving the students the notes, you're going to give them the definitions also. That way they're not looking up the definition, because if students look up their own definitions, it could be anything. So when you look at part A, this is very comprehensive. So this will be for those higher skilled students, where they're explaining, but not only explaining, they're including vocabulary in their explanation. So they're really bringing home the understanding. Then with part B of this, and it might not be easy to see, but with part B, it says if the gummy bear grew, then the cell state that occurred is. So part B is a sentence stem. So it's for those kids who they're not advanced, but they're working their way there. So all they have to do is identify something and just fill it in into that STEM. So this is another example of a way to start the class off. And it's a great strategy there because of because of the differentiation piece. So the last thing I'm going to show you is actually making a Google form. And the Google form is great towards the end of learning that objective, where you can really get some strong data on what did the students walk away from this with. Did they get it? Did they understand it? Do I have to go back and go over this? Because when we're talking about mastery, our goal is to see that the students are picking up those objectives and they're getting those learning skills. So the Google form is a great way, and it gives you that data where you can look at it, and it gives the students that immediate feedback. So these are 3 resources with the Jamboard, the use of a Google slide, and the Google Forms. These are 3 resources and ways that you can use different strategies to assess the students, to differentiate the students, and to get the class started. Remember, you always want to get your class off to a good start. And now, in addition to these things, you always have to look at the personality of the students in the classroom. What I mean by that is our children are always changing. One day they're happy, the next day they're sad. That's life as a child, as a teenager, as someone in middle school, even in elementary school. So you always have to be looking at how those kids are behaving. At the beginning of class, you're asking everyone how their day's going. You're saying good morning to them. You're looking at how they respond to you. If you're online, you're saying it in the chat, or you're talking to the kids through the monitor, but you always want to look at the students' emotions and assess it, because sometimes you may not want to do a do now to start the class off. Sometimes the kids got so much going on that their mind is not focused on school. So you don't want to be that teacher who stresses them out even more because they're already stressed out. So sometimes it's okay to give the students that 5-minute downtime. Maybe instead of the do now, immediately you give them a crossword puzzle, or you give them a word search. Give them something to relax. And in the long run, it's going to help them to become comfortable with you in a good way. And when they become comfortable, they're going to start to trust you. And that's a great thing. So always, always, always look at your students. And this is that social emotional part of learning. Look at your students and gauge what to do. You don't always have to be rigid and follow a set pattern of things, because we're dealing with students who are diverse in their emotions and their personalities. So that's it for today. And I'm the Ancient Writer. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you walked away from this with some strategies and resources that you can use. And the next topic will be using the exit ticket as a form of assessment.